Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. How are you doing today? Hopefully very well. Yes, I see that I still don't know why this program does that, where it shows beyond the blue screen. I'm not really sure why, but it does. Regardless, we're here today. We're rocking and rolling, and we're here to help you have success in fantasy sports. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. I'm not normally here on Wednesdays. You might be going, oh my gosh, where is Justin Fensterman? Justin's traveling this week, so Justin will be back on Friday. I'll be here today, obviously, and then tomorrow as well. The two of us doing a little bit of a shift this week, but don't worry, we got you covered. 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on the show, Monday through Friday. Again, we've been talking about it all week. The schedule's really wonky this week. Normally, Justin and I are on the show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 8 to 10 Eastern Time. That's game time, 8 to 10 Monday through Friday. We're on 8 to 10 tonight, but the next 2 days this week, we're on 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jeff Mann's Elite Sports Show is on 3 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm with Jeff every Wednesday, so I'm here with you for this hour. I'm then here with Jeff for 3 hours, starting at 3 o'clock today, and then tonight I'm on with Justin at 8 to 10 Eastern. And again, remember, the next couple of days, Thursday and Friday, here at 12 o'clock for Fantasy Sports Daily. Shift things over to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 1 to 3 for Elite Sports Game Time with me and Justin, and then 3 o'clock, Jeff Mann's after us. So 5-6 straight hours of the Elite Sports crew here on Thursday and Friday. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at the Ray Flowers. Send me any comments, questions, thoughts, all that kind of good stuff over there. We got a banger show here. We also have a great show later today for those of you looking forward to the Elite Sports Show. We're doing our top 5 today, most forgotten superstars. So check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about those guys. What are we talking about here on the show today? Well, let's throw it up on the screen. If I can get my mouse to work. My mouse acting a little funky today. Oh, now my screen's acting a little funky. Oh, it's going to be one of those days, huh? It's going to be one of those days. As you can see there on the screen, no football day. I'm not normally here on Wednesdays. Normally it's Armando, Marcel, and Justin, and they talk hoops and all that. Armando was here with us yesterday, so if you missed his visit, you can check that out. Tomorrow we'll talk to Tyler Beaker on Thursday. We'll finish out a review of the league, looking at team needs heading into the NFL draft. We'll have Russell Clay on Friday with Justin Fensterman. They'll talk some football too. But today it's all baseball. So for those of you that want your baseball fix, here we go. I will also point out that on Elite Sports Game Time, that show that's 8 to 10 Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Justin and I are spending about an hour and a half of the 2 hours talking baseball. So for those looking for a baseball fix, we got you covered here and there on SiriusXM. As you can see, there are a bunch of guys, injured guys off the top, demotions, promotions, injuries all over the place, strong performances, bad performances to start the year. We'll get all on this. And by the way, here Joe says that, and he just was reading that out loud. Yeah, Joe says, Ray, if I missed it this week, what is Jonathan? What is what? I should know how to read. Jonathan Aranda doing sustainable? Is he a must add? And as Joe says, he's on the topic today. Yes, he is. I try very diligently here, everybody, so everyone knows this. I try very diligently to pay attention to the players you're asking about, the questions that you have, and I try to get ahead of it. Because and I've been pretty good at this. I've been doing this for 25 years now. Pretty good at it. I will say this, Joe, Aranda should not qualify at second base. I hate leagues that have qualifications that don't make any sense. Aranda played 6 games at second base last year, 4 games at second base in 2023. That's 10 games in 2 years. He's not a second baseman. He shouldn't qualify at second base. Your league should have at least a 10-game minimum to qualify at a position, at least. I think it should be 15 or 20. 20 is the traditional number. 5 is not a number that makes any sense. So basically what you end up with in a scenario like this, Joe, is that every player is basically a UT guy. Some people like that. I think it's stupid. Again, traditionally it's 20 games at a position to qualify. Aranda's played 23 games in his career, so he certainly should not qualify there. But it does, obviously, in your setup, Joe, increase his value. We'll talk about him, as you said, here in a few minutes. As you can see there on the screen, you can always go to FantasyGuru.com. You can click on that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. If you do so, you can sign up for the baseball product, the football product, basketball, hockey, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, horse racing, on and on and on. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. You can also get the franchise mode for football. If you don't want to commit to the entire season, if you're really just interested in what's going on now in the offseason, player movements, and analyzing draft prospects, you can sign up for the franchise mode, or you can just sign up for the seasonal football package right now. Obviously, in the baseball space, it's only been a couple of weeks. And I keep saying this, and I keep feeling like every day no one's listening to me. It's been 3 weeks for the baseball season. The season is 26 weeks long. Okay, we're right at the start of this. If you haven't subscribed yet to fantasyguru.com, you absolutely can do that. Okay, it's not a problem. You can do it right now. We're still going to be able to help you. Okay, we're 3 weeks into a 26-week marathon. You can also obviously sign up for the DFS package, for the wagering package. I'm heavily involved in all of those. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com. But like I was saying, please, everyone, and I keep saying this on the show, I keep writing it in articles, I keep saying it in Discord, patience. I feel like the number one thing I'm doing right now is not really helping anybody move ahead. I'm just stopping all of you from making mistakes. Okay? You can disagree with my analysis. You can disagree with my rankings. It's your team. If you want to make a move, make a move. I'm not always right. In fact, I'm wrong a lot. I make mistakes. Not mistakes because I'm not paying attention, but I make mistakes in the sense I'm not always right. No one is. And I take responsibility for that. I write articles every year, thousands of words about the mistakes I've made. So I am not always going to be right. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, I think everyone should at this point in time know my opinion. 50 at-bats in 18 innings is not enough time. It's just not. And if you want to be reactionary because you're in a head-to-head league and you're 0-3 or whatever, I get it. Okay, I get it. But sometimes I see questions on social media and everything, and it's like I think to myself, you already know what the answer is going to be to this. And again, it may not be the right answer. It's not going to be the answer you want 90% of the time, but it's going to be the answer. So, please try to exercise some patience. I would also say to everybody, and I had another question again this morning over at FG, if you're in a 10-team head-to-head league, you're screwed. Everyone loves head-to-head. I get it. We don't have 20 people to play a league, Ray. We only got 10 people. I get it. If you're in a 10-team head-to-head league, you get zero. And I said this all preseason. I've said it for years. You get zero credit for being patient. There's no point for you to hold on to a struggling guy in a head-to-head league with 10 teams. Number one, because you're losing on a weekly basis if you do that. And number two, you can go to the waiver wire and get an all-star caliber player. I'm in 14 and 15 team mixed league. I can't give up on any struggling player right now because what am I going to go do? Go to the waiver wire and grab Jeff McNeil? Like there's nothing to do. In 10 team leagues, you can always do things. So I would say this is a blanket statement. If the player had an ADP of inside the top 150, they shouldn't be dropped in a 10 team head-to-head league. If they're outside the top 150, Kyron Perez is not going to be a star all season long, but right now Kyron Perez is winning people matchups. So again, it seems easier and more fun to do a 10-team head-to-head league. I think it's positively the worst setup you can possibly be in because you're not rewarded for having a good draft. You're not rewarded for having patience. You're not even really rewarded for analyzing players properly because all you're trying to do is time markets by jumping on and off players. So keep that in mind next year. If you struggle this year, it oftentimes people say, well, Ray, I thought I had a really good team. A lot of times you do put together a good team. It's the setup that's beguiling you. It's not your roster composition. It's not your selection of players. It's, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I got to make a move. I got to, I'm looking at the waiver wire. Jonathan Aranda sitting on the waiver wire and he's batting 400. I got to make a move. And you're thinking to yourself, well, yeah, Jonathan Aranda is hitting 400 and, Gunnar Diaz is hitting 120. I'm just going to drop him. Christian Yelich, oh my God, he's hitting 150. I'm going to drop him. So be cognizant of that. Finally, before we dive in directly to the topics today, don't forget, you can also watch the show live on youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. Live, you can watch it. Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. I couldn't say it. And then on Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. In all three of those places, as you've already seen on the show today, you can leave comments and questions throughout the show that we will address. You can also type in Fantasy Sports Daily to wherever you listen to podcasts and get us there. Or just go to FG, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. And when you do that, you'll find this and the other shows on the Elite Sports Network. Golf Getaways. Hey, Golf Getaways, look at that logo. All right, we'll answer some questions here before we dive in. Got to make room for Striders. In any world where dropping Ober over Casey Mize makes sense in a standard 5x5 setup. I had another question about Strider in Discord this morning, and I'll say it like this. In the case of Strider, we have known that he was going to be back in April for months. That was the expectation. We have known, and we talked about on the show last week, we have known that Strider was going to return this week for 5 days, 6 days, okay? Waiting to the point where Strider is activated from the injured list and then having to drop a player that others want, like we're talking about doing here, is a mistake. When we knew that Strider was going to come back this week, when we knew it last week, you should have been working the waiver wire to make a trade, because no matter whether you drop Ober or Mize, as soon as you drop either one of those guys, someone's running the waiver wire and picking them up for nothing. So when you have a player coming back from injury, and it's pretty clear, there's always risk, because Strider could have had a setback and then he could have been out another 2 months. So there's always risk to this. But I'd rather see you be proactive in a scenario like this and do a 2-for-1 trade on Saturday versus now having to drop a player that you know one of your league mates is just going to grab for free. If it's my decision, I'm keeping Ober. We'll talk about him later on the show today. I would keep Ober over Mize. Again, dropping Mize is not a good move. It's where we're at with this roster, Golf Getaways, so it's what we got to do. So unfortunately, Casey Mize goes kapooey. Angelo said I added Cameron Misner a few days ago, but Austin Hayes started out good. Yeah, neither one of these guys are anything other, Angelo, than fifth outfield options in mixed leagues. Even that, they might be stretched. So these are really ride them while they're hot kind of guys. I don't anticipate either Hayes or Misner being a top 50 outfielder this season. Good morning, Brandon. Let's go. Is now the time to add Lawler? I want to say, I wrote about this. Didn't I write about this yesterday or 2 days ago at fantasyguru.com? Let me see here. I want to say I wrote about this 2 days ago. Everyone, again, I'm pretty good at this. I'm pretty good at, taking a pulse of the room and understanding what people want to say and see and hear and talk about and all that. Let's see. Back on April 14th, did I talk about it in the article or was I here on the show? Let's see. Am I having a break up? No, I wrote about him the other day, Brandon. Wrote about him on Monday. So go check that out over at the site. Starting MLB Week 4 is the title of that piece. And you got it, Golf Getaways. Happy to help. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we're talking about here. Ronald Acuna, speaking of the Braves, Ronald Acuna, we've been discussing his scenario and his return date, and don't know when that's going to be still, but we did get good news that when Acuna went and visited the doctor, he's been cleared to accelerate his baseball activities. Now he's moving toward getting ready for a minor league rehab assignment. We still don't know. We were hoping it would be maybe April 20th that he'd be back in the big leagues. Now we're probably hoping May 10th, 15th, something like that. Acuna can still go 2020 even with playing 118 games, right? So this is slightly disappointing, but not unexpected. The good news is that Acuna's been cleared with his knee. He's progressing forward. We'll continue to update him, obviously. We'll try to get ahead of this. So when Acuna is going to be activated from the injury list, you're not forced to drop a player that you don't want to drop. We'll try to provide you that information here on the show and over at FG. But he's progressing. But it might still be 3-4 weeks. Yeah, let's say 4 weeks. What are we at, the 17th, 16th? If he's back by the 15th, I think we're doing pretty good at this point. So let's call it a month. We're still going to be without Ronald Acuna. Lane Thomas is out of the lineup yet again, and Brent Doyle's also been out of the lineup with his quad issue. He says he's not going to the injury list. That's what we heard from Brent Doyle. So, okay. So now we know he's not going to the injury list. This is a really frustrating scenario, though, that plays out, and it plays out every year in all sports, but in particular in baseball, it's difficult because Lane Thomas has missed 6 consecutive games. And if you're in a deeper mixed league, you're planning on starting Lane Thomas every day. You can't replace Lane Thomas because you're not dropping Lane Thomas, but you can't replace him because he's not on the injured list. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. He's just not playing. So got to hold on to Lane Thomas. Doesn't look like an IL stint is coming. It would be a mistake from the team's perspective if they do now put him on the injured list, because you can only backdate, I think, 3 days, and he's missed 6 days. So it would have meant they obviously calculated the whole scenario incorrectly. The fact that they haven't put him on the injured list with that wrist issue leads me to think that he'll be back in the lineup very soon. But that is a frustrating situation for Lane Thomas because he's just not on the field. Jackson Merrill. Remember when Jackson Merrill tweaked his hamstring? No big deal. Then he goes to the injured list. Still no big deal. Okay. He's getting close to starting his baseball activities back up. So Positive, he's improving. Negative, he hasn't done anything since he went out on the injured list. I mean, I don't know. End of April, a couple weeks for Jackson Merrill at this point, beating Acuna back, but obviously missing a lot more time than we anticipated when he was just going to be out of the lineup for a day or two. We'll continue to follow this story because obviously he was a star last year. He started out strong this year. He signed a big contract extension, all that kind of stuff. Had this little tweak with his hamstring. It was no big deal, and then he's going to miss 3 weeks. So we'll see with Merrill. Hopefully back by the end of April. Obviously, there's certain injuries, obliques and hamstrings being at the top of the list for players. Those two situations, the teams don't rush guys back. You know, if he blows out his hamstring, he has to miss 8 weeks. I mean, so they're going to be cautious here. A guy like Jackson Merrill's athletic. He's going to be running defensively and on the base paths, all that kind of stuff. So they can't afford to have that hamstring not be very close to 100% by the time they activate it. So having a discussion with Phil Backert, who helps us out. He covers IDP football for us over at fantasyguru.com. Again, remember, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. He covers MLB DFS as well. He does the cheat sheet for us often over at fantasyguru.com. He's our producer on the Elite Sports Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mann. And I was talking with him, and the news came out that Matt Shaw had been demoted by the Cubs. And Phil said, point blank on an IM conversation we're having, I don't understand why people keep drafting rookies. I don't either. Talk about this every year. I do podcasts and radio shows about this every year. I do articles about this every year. I've done a study of rookies, and it's available over at FG. I do it every year as part of the draft guide. There's 20 years of data in it. It's very clear. 20 years of data, but like 10 years of hardcore Ray Flowers data. It's abundantly clear that rookies do not, under any circumstance, live up to our expectations, period. There are always rookies that have great seasons, but frequently the rookies that have great seasons are not the guy that we predicted to have a great season. Jordan Walker, Jackson Holiday, Matt Shaw. It's not the guys we predicted to have the great season. It's some other rookie. So again, I don't understand this. I've never understood it. I'm not going to relitigate it here, but the bottom line is Matt Shaw, who was probably the number one. I mean, I guess Yamamoto was there, right? Dylan Cruz, depending, you know. So there's some other guys. But Matt Shaw was a top 5 rookie ad by everybody. And as we got closer to the opening day, his ADP skyrocketed. Sent to minor leagues. When a guy struggles this significantly, and he was 10 for 58 with 18 strikeouts. So he was really struggling. When a guy struggles that significantly and gets demoted this quickly, you saw it with Jackson Holiday last year. Matt Shaw could go down to the minors and hit 320 the next week. He's not coming back in 10 days. It's not happening unless there's an injury. I thought it was strange, as do many others, that Shaw was demoted so quickly, kind of out of nowhere, right, by the Cubs. But that was the decision they made. I had a discussion in Discord yesterday with a user over at FG asking me, what do I do with Matt Shaw? And if I remember correctly, that person was in a 10-team head-to-head league. Adios, Matt Shaw. We're not holding on to Matt Shaw in a 10-team head-to-head league again. Talked about at the start of the show. No benefit to holding. You shouldn't be stashing rookies in 10-team head-to-head leagues. It just doesn't pay off. I don't know when Matt Shaw is going to be back. I don't know how good he has to be in the minors to get recalled. If you have a keeper league, if you have some kind of value tied up, like Matt Shaw is a 25th round draft pick or something, okay, we can have some patience and hold him a little bit. But again, in shallow leagues, in head-to-head leagues, in redraft leagues, I mean, it's time to go to the waiver wire. We have no idea when he'll be back, and it could be a while because he did struggle here, and they were quick to pull the trigger on demoting Matt Shaw. Let's talk a lot about the A's situation because we're talking rookies here. Nick Kurtz. Have you heard of Nick Kurtz? Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz. On a daily basis, it's all anyone talks about. We don't know when Nick Kurtz is going to get promoted. He's seemingly mashing a home run every day down in the minor leagues, and he's likely going to be promoted earlier than I anticipated, or most people anticipated, because he was drafted last year. He was in the top 50 rookies over at fantasyguru.com. You can still find that list up there. Matt Shaw, I think, was 4th or 5th. I think Soderstrom was 25th, something like that, 26th. Maybe he's 23rd. He's in the 20s. But anyway, Kurtz is hitting home runs. People are, every day someone's asking me about Nick Kurtz. Here's the problem with Nick Kurtz, and it was the reason why he wasn't in the top 20 rookies at fantasyguru.com in the preseason, and it's why I'm still sitting here going, where is he going to play? Shea Langoliers is the catcher. We heard the Athletics say they might catch Tyler Soderstrom as the backup catcher. Maybe they will. But Tyler Soderstrom hit another couple of home runs last night. He leads Major League Baseball in home runs. And as we've talked about all preseason, both in articles at FG and here on the show, Tyler Soderstrom is a legit offensive weapon. And not only is he a legit offensive weapon, he's one of the best hitters in baseball right now. He's going to stay in the lineup. Okay, he's their first baseman. Nick Kurtz plays first base. Well, Ray, let's put Nick Kurtz to first base, and let's put Soderstrom at the DH or vice versa. Okay, but where does Brent Rooker go? We'll just stick Brent Rooker in the outfield. Here's the problem with doing that. And the A's have been doing that the last couple of days. So if you're reading tea leaves here, it seems like the A's are trying Brent Rooker in the outfield to see how that goes. And if they feel confident that Brent Rooker can handle the outfield work, that does open up playing time for Nick Kurtz. However, Brent Rooker played 14 games in the outfield last year. He's only been in the outfield twice this year. He started out really slow. He's hitting like 200 with a 250 on base chance. He started out really slowly this year. Is now the right time to say, hey, vet, hey, guy who we signed to a contract, hey, guy who almost hit 40 home runs last year, we're now going to switch it up. We're going to take you out of your comfort zone of hitting DH. We're going to take you out of that comfort zone and stick you in the outfield so we can call up some 23-year-old kid. Maybe. If that happens, does Brent Rooker get hurt? Or does Brent Rooker's moderate to poor defense impact the pitching staff of the Athletics because he's running around out there? And, does Rooker get hurt in 2 months because he's been running around the outfield for 2 months and it's now 97 degrees in Sacramento? All these things have to be factored in. Nick Kurtz is coming. He will be promoted earlier than I anticipated. I would not be shocked if Nick Kurtz was called up next week. I also wouldn't be shocked if that didn't happen until May 28th. So that's the problem all the time with these rookies, and it's why I have very clear rules that I write about when I talk about the rookies at the start of the season. The number one thing is you got to have a spot in the team. They're not calling Nick Kurtz up to play 3 out of every 7 games. There's no point. So that scenario, they have to be confident that Brent Rooker can handle the outfield. They weren't last year. Have to be confident he can handle it this year. I don't know if they feel better about that. And again, Rooker's not hitting. It'd be one thing if he's hitting 350 with a 420 on base percentage. He's not hitting right now. Do the A's want to mess the apple cart up and make it even more challenging for Rooker when he's trying to find his stroke? We'll see. Jesus Sanchez. Now, this is an interesting player. Jesus Sanchez, sneaky power speed guy, 15, 20 home runs, 15, 20 steals. It's not impossible. It's a stretch, but it's not impossible to think he goes 20-20 this year. He very easily could be on the waiver wire because he was injured. He's just activated from the injured list. Check your waiver wire for Jesus Sanchez. If he's out there, I would give strong consideration to adding him. Again, he's not a fully formed product, right? There's holes in his game and there's uncertainty. Will he hit 20 home runs? Not sure. Will he still 20 bases? Not sure. Is he going to hit 270? Not sure. But he has the potential to be not a difference-making player, but a very good offensive player that can help you in the fantasy game with that power-speed combination. And I just wanted to bring him up because it's very possible that Sanchez is on the injured list. So take a look. You should be on the injured list right now, especially since he's been activated. We got a question from Eric S. Hello, Eric. Interesting dilemma. I have Soderstrom, Freeman, and Ohtani and can only play 2. There's no corner infield spots in this format. Ugh. Would you deal one, and if so, who would it be, and what would you expect in return? Okay. Ohtani, I'm assuming, is not eligible at first base in your league. He's only UT option, Eric. Regardless, if I'm trading Ohtani, here's the problem. You have a logjam here. If I'm trading Ohtani, I don't think there's a 1-for-1 trade for Ohtani that makes sense. I mean, you're going to trade it for Bobby Witt. Maybe you want to do that. You're going to trade him for Aaron Judge. Maybe you want to do that. But you know what I'm saying? That 1-for-1 for Ohtani really doesn't work, especially if he's going to start pitching here in a couple months. So we have to get multiple players back if we're trading Ohtani. We already have a roster logjam here. So getting multiple players back, meaning we have to make even another move, that's tough to do. So more likely, the safer and smarter move would be to get rid of Soderstrom or Freeman in a deal. I can't answer the question of what would you get in return because to me, despite Soderstrom's great start that we just talked about, he's nowhere near the category of Freddie Freeman. They're not even close. You look at the numbers right now, Soderstrom is destroying Freeman. Would I expect that to be the case come September? Absolutely not. If it was my team, I'm trading Tyler Soderstrom. Okay. Now, again, I don't know what the return is. In some leagues, depending upon your league mates, you might be able to trade Soderstrom for almost the same level of return as Freddie Freeman. In other leagues, people will view these players as I do, and there's no way in hell you're getting as good a return on Soderstrom as you will on Freeman. Some people will say, well, Soderstrom was picked in the 19th round. Why would I? Soderstrom was picked up week 1 of the waiver wire. I'm not. Freddie Freeman was drafted in the 2nd round. Other people will say, because I see these questions on a daily basis, Eric, other people will say, well, Freddie Freeman, he's already been kind of hurt and he fell in the shower and has, kind of been so-so. And the Soderstrom kid, he's going to lead the American League in home runs. I'm trading Soderstrom. I think you could get a good return for him. That'd be my expectation, Eric. Ty France hit 4th yesterday for the Twins, and the Twins have all kinds of injuries. We'll talk more about Triston Casas here in a minute. I mean, not Triston Casas, Carlos Correa, sorry. Ty France was moved up to 4th in the order yesterday against a right-handed pitcher, which is the first time that happened for Ty France this season. He hit 4th against a lefty earlier on, but he's up to 4th now. He has been for years, not last year, but most years, a very consistent offensive weapon, has Ty France been. Weapon's wrong word. A very consistent offensive player. Ty France is going to hit 275. He's going to hit 15 home runs. He's going to drive in 72 runs. Right? He's not going to hit 300. He's not stealing bases. He's not hitting 25 home runs. We know that he's a professional hitter. We kind of know what he is. He's kind of that Josh Bell zone, right? In a pinch in a fantasy, you can turn to him. He's a corner infield option, all that kind of stuff. Oh, by the way, Eric agreed. Oh, that's what I was thinking. I appreciate it. Sell high. Yeah, you're welcome, Eric. Go Tiki. So with France, this is good for his outlook, especially if he ends up sticking at the 4th spot in the lineup, of course, right? Matt Wallner hurt his leg yesterday, so it seems like he could be headed to the injury list. He hurt his hamstring. We'll talk again about Carlos Correa here in a few minutes. He got injured. The Twins just need some stability, so France might end up in a better spot in the batting order than he really should be. And right now, that could be the cleanup spot. So it's worth keeping in mind. But again, he's a limited player. He's not a growth stock, if you will. So don't get ahead of yourself seeing, oh my gosh, Ty France is hitting cleanup. I got to go get him. Oh, he's got a good start. He's going to be the guy who can use at first base all season long. Maybe, but that's not the expectation that I would have with Ty France. Speaking of Triston Casas, we've talked about him on the show a lot. And I don't really understand what the Red Sox are doing with him. They said they were going to play him every day. They've been platooning him against lefties. His numbers in his career are better against lefties than against righties anyway. He was dropped to 6th in the lineup on Sunday. Yesterday hit 7th. So Casas is going in the absolutely wrong direction here. He is not producing. The Red Sox don't appear to have a tremendous amount of faith in him right now, and they're dropping him in the order. Now he's hitting 175, and his OPS is 500. So I'm not going to fault the Red Sox for making a move here, because he's hitting his way down the lineup. He's earning this. The positive is he's simply too good to have this continue. He's simply too talented. Now, he's not Matt Shaw. Like, a demotion of Triston Casas would be mind-blowing. Okay. So what likely happens if he continues to struggle, well, he's hitting 7th, maybe now he hits 8th, right? They'll do that move. And maybe they'll sit him down for 3 or 4 days. I think Triston Casas is a buy stock. If you had Ty France and you wanted to trade him to get Triston Casas, do it. That's how I would play it. That's not what the numbers say. That's not what the production says. That's not what I think popular opinion probably is. Maybe it should be, but maybe it's not. So I would trade France for Casas as an example. Bad right now, maintain the faith, hold him on your bench. Not to start him, I'm not saying that, but hold him on your bench. Speaking of the Twins, Carlos Correa's got the wrist injury. He's not in the lineup today after tweaking the wrist. Brooks Lee is apparently the pivot the team is going with. He's starting at 3rd base today, batting 6th. Lee is a guy who at one point in time was a really high-end prospect that was expected to be really good at the big league level. I think the expectations have pulled back significantly with Lee. I think Lee, at this point in time, if Lee could develop into being a hitter like Ty France, I think everyone would be pretty happy, which again is way below what the expectations were previously. Lee is really an AL-only play. If Correa's wrist is a significant issue and he's going to miss 3 months, we can reassess with Brooks Lee if he's going to be in that lineup every day. But remember, they've got Jose Miranda, who's a little bit beat up too. They could always put Miranda at 3rd base. Brooks Lee, pay attention. I put him on a watch list pending what we hear the next couple of days from the Twins. But I'm not running right now to the waiver wire to pick him up. Let me retweet the show here. Tell a friend about the show too. Some days we have huge numbers. Some days we have kind of moderate numbers here on the show, which I understand. People float in and out and all of that. Hopefully you're finding a way to watch live or listen on demand or whether it's podcast form or on one of the various platforms we're on. Tell a friend if you could. And obviously, we really appreciate it if you went to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner and subscribe to the product over at fantasyguru.com. Gunnar Henderson, speaking of guys kind of moving around the lineup, Gunnar Henderson had been leading off, hit fourth yesterday. Something to keep an eye on. The Orioles, I was talking to Phil Backert, he's Mr. Oriole this morning. There's a lot of frustration, obviously, with the start for the Orioles, and there's some line of thought that the Orioles have gone too hardcore with this platoon thing, and a lot of teams do this, some with great success, but when you're struggling and guys are in and out of the lineup and you're changing the lineup, I've always said this, maintained it. I played baseball. I played baseball for 15 years. I've coached high school baseball. I've umpired baseball. I've obviously broadcasted baseball. I've been around baseball my whole life. And there is something, some players just show up, and whether they're playing second base or left field doesn't matter. Whether they're hitting third or eighth doesn't matter. Other guys want to know they're playing second base every day. Other guys want to know they're hitting sixth every day, right? There's just a comfort zone there. And once the game starts, especially with the batting order, once the game starts, does it really matter? Mentally, it does for some people. It always is odd to me that, well, against righties, we hit, Heliot Ramos. Against lefties, we're hitting them leadoff. Against righties, he's hitting fifth. So there's some of that going on with the Orioles right now as they're kind of searching for that right mix. I don't know if the move of Gunnar Henderson from the leadoff spot to the fourth spot is going to stick or it was a one-time thing. We'll see. But keep an eye on what the Orioles are doing offensively in terms of the batting order because they're trying to find the right mix right now with that struggling start. We had the question earlier about Jonathan Aranda. Let's talk about him. Jonathan Aranda, what team is he on mine? Labor? Let's pull it up here so I can make sure. Aranda was like my 28th round pick. What are we doing here? Let's see if it's Jonathan Aranda. It's not in this league, right? So he's in Labor. Jonathan Aranda, correct? Okay, let's look at this league's draft. Draft from Jonathan Aranda, I believe, was my 29th round draft pick in that 15-team mixed league. No, it wasn't 28th round pick. Oh, I was way off. Where did I take Jonathan Aranda? He was my 27th round pick. 27th round pick in a 15-team mixed league. So that just goes to show you that there's a lot of people that were looking at Aranda and it's like, clearly he wasn't drafted in 80% of fantasy leagues, especially if you're in a shallow league, right? But he needs to be looked at right now. Why? Because his performance has been not just good, but stupendous. 15 games in, Jonathan Aranda is hitting 400 with a 480 on-base percentage, a 760 slugging percentage. His OPS is 1242. Spectacular. His walk rate is in double digits, which is fantastic. His strikeout rate is way down at 19%, which we love to see. This is a really, really good start. And I wrote about Aranda over at FG, and I think he might have been in the Cheap Power article. I'm trying to remember. I wrote about him in the preseason over at fantasyguru.com. So hopefully, those of you that have seen the strong start from Aranda have, remembered that we talked about him in the preseason and said, look, for those of you in a deeper league, for those of you looking for a guy no one's talking about, maybe this is a guy you want to focus on because if you have or did, you're seeing a nice little benefit. What is Aranda moving forward? Well, he is somebody that is out of the Trop, as we've talked about. Moving to Steinbrenner Field helps the Rays offensively. That's a bonus. His hot start signifies that he's basically staying in the lineup for, I think, the duration, right? Like this is not a good start. This is an amazing start for Jonathan Aranda. You look at the team now, and they're dealing with some health issues. And this is the problem with Aranda. They're platooning him kind of now. I think the platoon becomes a little bit more strict when the batting average and performance falls. And look at the injured list this team has. Josh Lowe returns. He's playing every day. Well, he's playing every day against right-handed pitching in the outfield. Johnny DeLuca, they're going to want to get him in the lineup. Now, not necessarily every day, but it might be every day. Ha-Seong Kim, he's going to come back, and he's going to be in the lineup basically every day. Now, none of these guys play first base. So none of these guys directly impact Jonathan Aranda. But Yandy Diaz is also at first base. So that really means Aranda's the DH. And if you look at his, if you look at his time, he's played first base 13 times and DH once. I think that it could be reversed. He could see more time at the DH spot than the first base spot. They've used Diaz twice at first base, 15 times DH. Regardless, those two guys are first base DH. Diaz is a leadoff guy. Okay, so Diaz is going to play. Aranda's probably going to be platooned in a more strict basis moving forward. Aranda has the skill set to be a 25 home run hitter this year. I think that he could be a 270 hitter, 25 home runs if everything goes right. Now, there's a lot of first basemen. He falls into that zone of those first basemen. Like, how many first basemen could hit 270 with 25 home runs? There's 18 guys that can do that, right? Or they hit 250 with 30 home runs, or they hit 290 with 15 home runs, right? He's in that Nathaniel Lowe, Michael Bush, those guys I talk about. It's Tyler Soderstrom, he's in that zone. Great start. I'll have to anticipate a pullback here because obviously the numbers are absurd right now. I do like the walk rate. I do like the strikeout rate. And his batted ball data is absurdly good. It's way too early to say this is, he's the next Aaron Judge. But the batted ball data is stupendous. So great start for Aranda for all the reasons discussed. Corner infield option in most mixed leagues, I think, is where he's likely to end up. Great start for Jonathan Aranda. Corbin Carroll, just to point it out, he had a grand slam and an RBI double yesterday. It took him 96 games to hit 6 home runs last year. Remember all the concern in the first half about his shoulder, and he wasn't driving the baseball. Was his shoulder broken? Not what did he have a break? Was it broken? Is he never going to drive the baseball again? Is this a scenario where it's a mechanical thing like he insisted? Well, his power came back in the second half. It's happened to an absurd level to start the year. He's got 6 home runs in 17 games this year. He went 96 games into last season before he hit a 6 home run. Now, oddly, he's powering the baseball all over the place as Corbin Carroll, but he's not stealing bases. That'll, the worm will turn. We'll get the sample size. Things will even out. Don't worry. He's not going to hit 39 home runs with 6 steals this year. It's not going to happen. Okay. But it's great to see a guy like Corbin Carroll who, you're hoping for 25 home runs, right? And 40 steals. Well, he's not really running right now. But he's driving the ball like crazy. He's got a 700-plus slugging percentage. Even when he's not stealing bases, he's contributing with the bat. And that's the value of the 5 category players, right? When one part of their game is struggling, another part of their game picks them up. Corbin Carroll off to a great start. That's the bottom line there. All right. What do we got up next here? Let's talk some pitching. Bobby Miller has been promoted. He's going to start today for the Dodgers. Landon Knack, who pitched yesterday, has been demoted. As we talked about with Knack, just a streamer. Bobby Miller is somebody that I took in multiple leagues in like the 28th round. Now, again, I'm in 15-team mixed leagues. In your league, he was almost certainly not drafted. Okay. He's got a matchup against the Rockies. Yippee-ki-yay. It's a fantastic matchup. Now, the problem with starting him, because again, he is starting today for the Dodgers. The problem with starting Miller is there's many things. One, is he going to stick in the rotation? Unclear. Remember, Snell and Glasnow are getting closer to return. Kershaw's improving, though Kershaw's still out for another 6-7 weeks. Is Miller going to stick in the rotation? I almost fell over. I am standing up now. For those of you that don't know, I got a new standing desk. Is Miller going to stay in the rotation, whether he does well or not today? Can you trust Miller? He was not good in spring training. He was not particularly good in the minor league, so he's being promoted based upon skills that he owns, stuff that he possesses, but not based on performance. I have Miller in multiple leagues, as I noted. In my leagues, you set your lineup once, so I couldn't pitch him anyway today because I had to set my lineup 2 days ago. I know that's the fun of setting lineups once a week. I wouldn't be overly excited about pitching him today, even though the matchup on paper is let's go. What I would say is that if you have 5 relievers, if you've got a pitcher you're going to drop, if you just want to make a move, I'm adding Bobby Miller. It could blow up tremendously because, again, he didn't do anything last year. It's terrible, and he hasn't done anything this year. But the skills, the talent, the stuff, it's all borderline elite. Just a couple years ago, remember, this guy was one of the top 10 right-handed pitching prospects in baseball. So I'm adding him if I could or can. Great matchup today, but I'm not leaning to start him. Maybe in a head-to-head league, you just do it. And it's also unclear if he's going to make another start or they're going to demote him. So something to think about with Bobby Miller. Grayson Rodriguez, this one's very disappointing. Not bad news, but disappointing news. Another reason the Orioles are struggling, right? They're starting pitching. Grayson Rodriguez is out with the elbow issue. And we've gone through this. It was not supposed to be a deal, and it ended up becoming something that's on the injured list. And then it ended up, oh my gosh, it's going to take longer than we thought. Okay. Still no timetable for him. And again, I'm not saying he's had a setback or anything like that because at this point, no one has said he's had a setback. But we're weeks into the season now, and we don't have a time frame. Like, is it Is it going to be 3 weeks? Is it going to be 6 weeks? He's going to throw a bullpen on Thursday or Friday this week. He's already thrown a couple of bullpens. So it seems like his elbow's okay and he's moving in the right direction. Manager Mike Elias, when asked, hey, what's going on here? The quote was, there's, quote, a lot, unquote, for him to still do. He's not back in April. Okay, it's not happening. The question is it mid-May? Let's hope. I wish I had a more firm timeline. We just don't right now. Let's hope mid-May. Let's hope it's a month from now. The Orioles are getting reinforcements. Kyle Gibson, who they signed late, still working in the minor leagues, probably about 2 weeks away. And right around the 1st of May, they expect him back. So Gibson will beat Rodriguez back to the active lineup, or actually beat him just to the Orioles because he's never been with the Orioles before. But Gibson will be there soon, a couple of weeks. I'm hoping Rodriguez is a month. Hoping. We just don't know at this point in time. And he's been one of the more, as we've all discussed here, one of the more disappointing guys in fantasy baseball and just baseball in general is Grayson Rodriguez. Grayson Rodriguez is supposed to be, if he doesn't do well, he doesn't live up to expectations, he's a mid-rotation starter, like an SP3. If he lives up to expectations, maybe he's an ace, if not a 2, right? So he's the top half of the rotation guy, and he just can't stay on the field. Really frustrating for the Orioles, for him, for us. We'll see with Grayson Rodriguez. Speaking of the Orioles, Zach Eflin, who is out with a mild lat strain, is reportedly doing well. They're saying his return is likely to be weeks and not months. Okay. 4 weeks is still a month. Okay. He hit the injured list last week, as we know and talk about all the time. It's usually 2 to 6 weeks for a lat. Most oftentimes it's 4 to 6 weeks for a lat, especially for a pitcher. So some point in May, let's say a month from now for Eflin to return, I'm guessing again. So it's very possible that the Orioles, who are struggling now, get Gibson on May 2nd. And then they get Rodriguez and Eflin on like May 15th. And then maybe everything changes, because that's 3/5 of your starting rotation. So that's, so if you're an Orioles fan, keep the hope. We'll continue to monitor this in fantasy. Jack Leiter, who's got a blister, he's going to face batters later this week, throwing some live BP. The Rangers have not determined yet whether he's going to need a start in the minors or they're just going to immediately activate him coming back from this blister. So maybe there's a minor league outing here, which delays him another week. Maybe they just throw him back in the fire. He's dealing again with the blister. If he goes out and throws BP and feels good and locates his pitches and all that, maybe they just activate him and throw him out there. There's also a chance that they give him a minor league start. Returning next week is certainly in the realm of possibility for Jack Leiter. So just an update with him. Eury Perez, another one of these star pitchers in baseball, a guy who was ascending, who's going to be a Cy Young contender, all that. Obviously hurt his arm, had surgery on his elbow, all that kind of stuff. We know that. He's going to face batters today in live batting practice. So he's continuing to move forward. The Marlins have continually said that they're hoping Perez is back right around midseason. Everything we have seen to this point leads me to think and believe that that's very possible, right? So Perez is certainly moving in the right direction coming back from Tommy John surgery. We're nowhere close to a return. We're still months away, but the steps are being hit. So nothing right now, nothing going on with Eury Perez to preclude us from thinking he could return around the All-Star break. So good news there. Alexis Diaz was promoted. He got promoted, and the manager, Terry Francona, would not name him the closer. Okay, we talked about this, not surprising. He goes out yesterday. They bring him in the 6th inning. Yeah. He walked 2 of the 4 batters and got pulled. I'm now very nervous. It's one outing, and let's not be anti-Ray Flowers here, but I'm very nervous that his manager, Terry Francona, would not commit to him working the 9th inning, used him in the 6th inning, and then pulled him after 4 batters. Like, all these things combined together make me very nervous about Diaz. Now, Diaz, unfortunately, in a couple of leagues, Diaz was the closer I grabbed. Maybe just one league. He was the closer I grabbed because I didn't take a top 10 closer. I wasn't pushing to get a closer, but I thought he was on that final tier of guys that I could get 25 saves from. A lot of you are probably in that same spot. I have maintained all along my belief that Diaz will lead the Reds in saves. I'm not changing that position right now. Again, it's 16th of April. But I am getting my nervous factor on a scale of 1 to 10 was a 3 yesterday. Now it's a 5. So I'm getting nervous. I still think it's quite possible he leads the team in saves, but clearly Diaz is not somebody that Terry Francona looks at and has faith in at the moment. Could change in a week. But right now there is legit concern. Diaz is, I don't want to say he's a drop, because I really don't want to drop Diaz unless I'm in a Solds league. If you're in a Solds league, we can move on. If you're in a Saves league, I'm still recommending you hold Diaz if you can. Bailey Ober, we had a question about earlier. Bailey Ober, who last year was terrible at the start of this, season. This year, who was terrible at the start of the season. We talked all preseason about his lack of velocity and the concerns that brings. Another solid effort yesterday against the Mets. 3 runs over 6 1/3 innings. Another quality start for him. He got only 12 swings and misses on the 77 pitches, though that is a 30% CSW, which is a really good mark. He faces the White Sox next. So just like last year when Ober had that terrible start, it looks like he's basically doing the same thing this year, is rebounding quickly from that terrible start to a guy we can trust. Still, the velocity's down a little bit. Again, we talked about this for a couple months now, but Ober's working around it for now. And again, the matchup next time out against the White Sox is beautiful. So Ober, if we had a concern level of 5 with Ober, let's say a month ago, it's now down to like a 2. So we're going in the exact reverse of Alexis Diaz. Strong outing last night for Ober, and look for him to do it again against the White Sox next time out. And then the final pitcher is Tyler Mahle. 9 strikeouts over 6 shutout innings against the Angels. Here we go. Tyler Mahle, who was one of my guys prior to his injury and the surgery he had. Someone we talked about in the preseason, someone that, again, I said multiple times, if you want to take him in the 30th round, okay. Not somebody I was aggressively pushing on you, not someone I was saying you had to draft, so I'm not trying to take credit for it. I'm just saying that he is a pitcher that we were talking about here and said, pay attention, because this is, well, now we're into this. And, in 19 innings, he's got 21 strikeouts, and his ERA and WHIP are under 1. I will point out that 9 walks in 19 innings is not good, and a 2.3 strikeout to walk ratio is not good. So this is not a perfect start. Obviously, the ratios are influenced by the sample size. What we are seeing, though, is a healthy Mahle, which means that he could, make 25 starts for this team this year, throw 156 innings, strike out 162 guys, have a 3.80 ERA and a 1.26 WHIP. Mahle is a usable piece in almost all mixed leagues. I think he's an innings eater versus a booster, though. He's not a ratio booster. Don't make that mistake. There still is a lot to prove because he's missed time the last couple of years. So I'm not saying he's throwing 160 innings with 170 strikeouts. Like, I'm saying that's possible. I am not sitting here telling you it's going to happen. No. Mahle is somebody that can be added. I think he quite likely should be in most leagues at this point, especially with all the injuries we're already dealing with on the hill. But again, look at him as more of like a 5th starter in the fantasy space, 6th starter in the fantasy space. Look at him more as that guy that you may not start in that difficult matchup, that you're not going to be disappointed when he, gives up 4 or 5 runs in a couple of outings. Not a dominant force, not likely to make an all-star team, anything like that, but in a pretty good groove right now. Though there's still some wonkiness that needs to work itself out. So go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com if you've got any questions about any of the products or anything we're doing over at fantasyguru.com. Today, the Elite Sports Game Time show is 8 to 10 Eastern in our normal slot. Justin Fensterman and I, 8 to 10 tonight. I'm on with Jeff Manns at 3 o'clock Eastern in a couple hours. I'm on with him every Wednesday there from 3 to 6 Eastern on SiriusXM. Tomorrow and Friday, Game Time returns to the 1 o'clock slot, so you'll watch this show for free at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Thursday and Friday, we then go to SiriusXM at 1 o'clock, so from 1 to 3, it'll be Justin and I on the Game Time show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Then at 3 o'clock Eastern, it'll be Jeff Manns, one day by himself, one day with Ted Schuster. So the next 2 days, we'll have here at 12, and then Sirius for 5 hours with us. And then tonight, Justin and I will be on later in the evening. Though again, I'm on 3 hours with Jeff here. So check out those various locations. As I've noted in the DFS article, I hope everyone understands, because of the schedule, the clock, everything like that, I'm just unable to do my full DFS breakdown with my raised plays. Clock just doesn't work. Today's another one of those days I won't be able to do it. What I have been able to do is focus on the pitching side of the slates. So at least I'm able to contribute there. Just not enough time to break down all the hitters. I didn't want to slap stuff together improperly. So look for my raised plays to be out yet again today. With the pitching side of things, I think I can do the same the next couple of days. On Monday next week, when the schedule returns to normal, I'll go back into the raised plays with the whole lineup and all of that. So hopefully you're enjoying the way things are going. If you got any questions or concerns, send a note to support@fantasyguru.com or just hit me up in the Discord over at FG. Tomorrow on this show, it's me and Tyler Beaker talking football. First half hour will be me baseball. Second half hour, it's Tyler and I. We'll be looking at the finishing out. What is it? The AFC East, NFC East tomorrow? I forget what it is. I think, no, it's the South. I think we're doing the South. AFC South, NFC South tomorrow on the show. Team needs heading into the NFL draft. So we'll do that tomorrow with Tyler. And then Friday will be Justin Fensterman and Russell Clay here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for watching the show today. Head over to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. I am Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Have a great day. We'll see you back here in 23 hours at FantasyGuru.com.